He died 2 years ago. I was at his funeral. But last night my phone turned on by itself, and I watched as he typed me a message. In real time. My name is Nathan Cross, and I'm a private detective. There are 3 things I hate most in this world: cases without evidence, clients with secrets, and situations where everything is too quiet. That's exactly why, when Kira Mason called me, I almost refused. She said she urgently needed someone who could look beneath the surface without asking stupid questions. I agreed because she mentioned a name, Edward Howell. Ed was my partner. We worked together for nearly 8 years, until he died in a fire. The house where he lived burst into flames in the middle of the night. Closed windows, door locked from inside. The official version, electrical short circuit. The unofficial one, he knew he'd found something, and someone was watching him. Back then, I buried it deep inside, unable to carry 2 bodies, his and my own. It was a Tuesday morning when my office phone rang, piercing through the stale air and the lingering scent of yesterday's bourbon. Rain tapped against the windows, not enough to clean the city, just enough to make everything look miserable. Nathan Cross, I answered, my voice still rough from sleep. A pause. The kind that tells you the person on the other end is either choosing their words carefully or regretting the call entirely. Mr. Cross. My name is Kira Mason. Her voice was steady but thin, like a wire pulled too tight. I need your help with something unusual. Something in her tone made me sit up straighter. I'm listening. It's about Edward. Edward Howell. My blood went cold. Nobody had mentioned Ed's name to me in almost 2 years. Not since the funeral. What about him? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. He's sending me emails. I almost hung up. Almost. Ms. Mason, I don't know what kind of. From his email address. The one that was deleted after his death. She cut me off. First message, you left the window open. Second one, find Nate. Tell him, 3:36. I felt the room tilt slightly. 3:36, it meant nothing to me, but Ed always had a thing for patterns, for numbers that seemed random but weren't. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Send me your address. Kira lived in one of those renovated industrial buildings downtown, all exposed brick and pipes, trying too hard to look authentic. She opened the door on my second knock, her eyes darting past me into the hallway before letting me in. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back into a tight ponytail. I remembered her from Ed's funeral, standing apart from everyone, her face a perfect mask of composure while her hands betrayed her, twisting a tissue until it disintegrated. Thank you for coming, she said, leading me into a sparsely furnished living room. A laptop sat open on a glass coffee table. It's all there. I sat down and examined the screen. The emails were real, fresh dates, clear subject lines, coming from Ed's old address. But one thing caught my eye, they were all sent at exactly 1 minute before 3:36 a.m. And always from a new IP address. The location, a spot in southern Los Angeles. An abandoned warehouse. When did these start? I asked, scrolling through the messages. 3 weeks ago. She hugged herself, rubbing her arms as if cold. At first, I thought it was a sick joke. Someone who knew about us. But then. Then what? He mentioned things only Ed would know. Private jokes. Places we visited that no one else knew about. She hesitated. And this. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo, a security camera screenshot. It showed a man with his back to the camera, but the posture, the slight tilt of the head, even the way he stood with his weight shifted to one side, it was unmistakably Ed. Where was this taken? Outside my apartment building. 3 days ago. At 3:35 a.m. I studied the image, looking for any signs of manipulation. We need to check out that warehouse. The rain had intensified by the time we reached southern Los Angeles. The warehouse district was a forgotten corner of the city, a place where buildings went to die, slowly rusting into the landscape. The particular warehouse matching the IP location stood apart from the others, surrounded by a chain-link fence with faded, "No trespassing" signs hanging at odd angles. "Stay close," I told Kira as I cut through a section of fence with bolt cutters I kept in my trunk. Old habits from my less legitimate investigative days. The interior of the warehouse was a cavernous space of shadows and echoes. Our flashlights carved narrow paths through the darkness, revealing nothing but empty floor space and graffiti-covered walls. But at the far end, a small room, what might have once been an office or control center, glowed with faint blue light. Inside was a server room. Most of the equipment was offline, covered in dust. But one server was running, powered by a temporary setup that looked like it had been installed recently. And on the monitor connected to it, an open chat window. The last message read, "Nate, don't sleep. He's back. And now he's wearing your face." Kira looked at me expectantly, waiting for an explanation. I remained silent. Because earlier that same day, before her call, I'd received a voice message on my phone. It deleted itself after 10 seconds, but I heard it clearly. "If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. Watch the eyes. He doesn't blink." I hadn't slept that night. Instead, I reviewed the security footage from around Ed's house, who came in, who went out. The day before the fire, he received a package. The camera caught the courier. I zoomed in on the image. The courier was Ed. His face, his mannerisms, the birthmark on his neck. But the recording was from 2 days before his death. My apartment felt different when I returned that evening, as if someone had been there, moving things by millimeters. I locked the door, drew the blinds, and pulled out a flash drive Ed had left with me, just in case. The flash drive contained archives from an old investigation of his. Disappearances of people who suddenly returned, but were different. Everything was almost right: favorite foods, habits, friends. But one detail stood out: they never blinked in photos. Not once. I compared photos of Ed from the last 6 months of his life. Everything looked normal. Until the final 2 weeks. Not a single blink. Always perfectly open eyes. "What are you looking for?" Kira asked, standing in the doorway of my home office. I'd almost forgotten she was with me. "Patterns," I replied, not looking up. Ed was obsessed with patterns. And I pointed to the screen. In every photo from his last 2 weeks, his eyes are open. No blinking. Not in a single frame. Kira leaned closer, studying the images. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe. But Ed never believed in coincidences. I pulled up another file. There's more. Look at these. Security footage from various locations around the city: a bank, a coffee shop, a subway station. In each one, I'd spotted someone who looked just like Ed, moving through crowds, always slightly out of focus, always at odd hours. "These are all after the fire," I said quietly. "After he died." Kira's face had gone pale. "What is happening, Nathan? I need to check something at the archives. Old case files that might connect to this." The county archives were housed in a basement that smelled of mildew and forgotten secrets. The night guard, an old friend who owed me a favor, let me in without questions. I spent hours combing through files, following threads that seemed to lead nowhere, until I found it: a case Ed had been working on secretly. Project Doppelgangers. A classified laboratory working for defense contractors. According to the legend, they were conducting memory experiments. In reality, attempts to create living reflections. Copies. Biological, perfect, with restored memories. But with one bug: they couldn't properly adapt to random emotions. They didn't blink. Didn't sweat. Made no mistakes. The file was incomplete, pages missing, redacted sections. But one name kept appearing, Dr. Malcolm Reese, lead scientist. Former military. Disappeared 3 years ago after funding was cut. When I returned home, Kira was gone. No calls, no traces. In her place on my coffee table was a recorder. One file. Nate. He's among us. Already inside. You know who I mean. He was at your funeral. But you're alive, right? The recording sent a chill down my spine. My funeral. I was very much alive. Unless. Since then, I've started noticing repeating faces. People in crowds. Similar. Too similar. And each time, one of them, looking straight at me, not averting their gaze. Not blinking. I began to follow one of them, a man who looked just like my neighbor, Mr. Finch. The real Finch was a retired teacher who walked with a slight limp from an old football injury. This one moved differently, more fluid, more precise. I tracked him to an abandoned medical facility on the outskirts of the city. Inside, I found rooms filled with monitoring equipment, medical supplies, and walls covered with photos, hundreds of them, of ordinary people going about their daily lives. And then I saw my own face, in dozens of photos. Leaving my apartment, buying coffee, sleeping through my window. Photos spanning months. And in one corner, a date circled in red. The day of the fire that killed Ed. I searched further and found a journal. Most pages had been torn out, but one entry remained. Subject successfully replaced. Integration complete. Subject NC under observation. Replacement scheduled for May 17th. Today's date. And next to it, a photo of me, asleep in my bed. From last night. My phone vibrated in my pocket. An email. From Ed's address. Remember how we used to light up after the Taylor case? You said then, if someone ever clones me, hit first. The time has come. Don't mistake the face. I drove to the only place I could think of, the cemetery where Ed was buried. The night was unnaturally still as I stood before his grave, the marble headstone reflecting the moonlight. I need answers, Ed, I whispered to the silent stone. You're looking in the wrong place. I spun around. A man stood several feet away, his face hidden in shadow. Who are you? I demanded, my hand instinctively moving to the gun at my hip. You know who I am, Nate. He stepped forward, and the moonlight revealed his face. My face. Perfect in every detail, down to the small scar above my right eyebrow from a childhood accident. What are you? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. I'm you. The improved version. His smile was wrong, too perfect, too symmetrical. You should be honored. They only replace people who matter, who know too much. Where's Kira? Safe. For now. He tilted his head, studying me. It's fascinating, isn't it? Standing face to face with yourself. The original and the copy. And which one am I? The question had been haunting me since I found that journal. He laughed, my laugh, but hollow. That's the beauty of it. How can you be sure? How can anyone? Ed figured it out. Ed made a mistake. He confronted his double directly. That's why he had to be retired. He took a step closer. But you're smarter than that, aren't you? You've always been more cautious. I thought about the last message from Ed, don't mistake the face. Not just a warning about my double, a clue. The eyes, I said suddenly. You don't blink. For a split second, something flickered across my face. A glitch in the perfect mask. Neither do you, he replied smoothly. When was the last time you checked? And there it was, the seed of doubt. When had I last blinked? I could remember doing it, but were those memories mine, or implanted? Was I the hunter or the hunted? You're wondering now, aren't you? His smile widened. Are you the original Nathan Cross, or did they already replace you? Are these your real memories, or constructed ones? Is this even your real body? My phone buzzed again. A text message from an unknown number. Both Nathan Crosses will die tonight unless one kills the other. One bullet left. Choose wisely. I looked up. My double was holding a gun, my backup piece that I kept in my desk drawer. They're watching us, he said, gesturing vaguely to the darkness around us. Testing us. Only one version gets to continue. That's how it works. He held out the gun to me. You decide. One bullet. You or me. I took the gun, feeling its weight. Familiar. Real. How do I know which one of us is real? I asked. Does it matter? One of us is a perfect copy. Same memories, same skills, same desires. The only difference is one of us will walk away from here. I raised the gun, pointing it at his chest. He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. If I'm the copy, I said slowly, would I know it? What do you think? I lowered the gun slightly. I think, if I were the copy, I wouldn't be asking these questions. I wouldn't doubt. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his features. A very human reaction. And in that moment, I made my decision. What if someone is already living your life, and you're just the one who has to notice it first?